up everything in Little Rock and be back.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'll bring you guys. If everyone would take your seats, we'll get started here in just a second. Well, good evening. Today is March 12th, 2021. Some 365 days ago, all of our lives changed. It was the day on March 12th, 2020, is when we, the city of Little Rock, initiated our State of the City emergency. And from that day forward, we've been pushing through a global pandemic. Today, I want to thank City of Little Rock team members and partners, all of our employee team members, but specifically also our partners, Charles Frazier, who is the CEO of Rock Region Metro, Superintendent Mike Poore of Little Rock School District, Directors Compuris, Webb, Peck, all of the City Board of Little Rock Directors as well. Nate Coulter is the Chief Executive Officer of the Central Arkansas Library System. Debbie Schock, who's the Chief of Staff of the Clinton National Foundation and Library here in Little Rock, Arkansas, as well as Stephanie Street, who's the Chief Executive Officer as well. Dr. Jay Barth, Chief Delphon Hubbard of the Little Rock Fire Department, the Office of Emergency Management, Matt Burks and Nathan Spicer, and Chief Keith Humphrey of the Little Rock Police Department. So again, on March 12th, a year ago today, we issued a declaration of emergency to battle COVID-19. This experience has been one both personally and professionally challenging for all of us because we had to have a period of separation, a period of economic volatility, a period of understanding what healthcare disparities as well as financial disparities mean. But through it all, we've made it through. Through it all, we are still here with a vibrant economy, 4,000 announced jobs in the middle of a global pandemic, historic job over year growth, and all of our small businesses are pushing through. Now, we've experienced close to 29,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases, close to 300 deaths. But again, we pay homage to those that have been impacted, those that have survived, and those that have transitioned. And we give heartfelt condolences to those lives, those families, and those loved ones. And as we commemorate this day and look forward to our future, expecting better than our beginnings, we say thank you to the residents of Little Rock. We'll now have Pastor Alex Diaz of the Mosaic Church.
Thank you, Honorable Frank Scott, Mayor of the City of Little Rock, to the city directors and the leadership and all distinguished guests. Muchas gracias por su liderazgo. Thank you for your leadership. As the mayor said, we all remember where we were 1 year ago when we found out that a pandemic of global proportions was making its way around the planet and even to our great city. And it began a night for us. It was the beginning of a season that was of hibernation for some, but it was a season of pain for way too many people, thousands upon thousands around our nation, hundreds in our city who passed away, thousands who were infected. The toll has been in many lives, and there's also, of course, there have been emotional, physical, and spiritual consequences. It's an understatement to say that this season claimed the lives of many, and it also shone light upon many other illnesses in our nation. But in the midst of that, we could see glimmers of hope, seeds of hope. There was hope in every first responder that said yes to a call. There was hope in every teacher that continued to teach, whether live or online. There was hope in every warrior that put up a fight. There was hope in every hospital worker, anybody in the front lines or behind the scenes, and the people that were harvesting our fields so that we could feed our families. And there was hope in the great leadership of this city. And so I think that God wants us to commemorate those who have passed, and He wants us to also build upon the hope that has been given to us and use that as the seed of a new harvest. We can look at a new season that is coming for this great city and look beyond and say thank you to all the people that have given us that hope, and remember forever the lives that have been lost and the people that were affected. And we can also put our hope in something greater. I believe that God has been fighting with us and for us. And there's a very powerful verse in Psalm 30, verse 5, where it says, "My weeping may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning." Our weeping is hopefully ending, but we can put our hope on the joy that is coming. And before I finish with a prayer, I want to just take a few moments of silence that we can commemorate and remember those lives that have been lost in the last year. Thank you, God, that you have been fighting for us and with us, and for our great city, for the leadership that you have put in place, for those who have been on the front lines and behind the scenes, and for the fact that we can claim weeping did last through the night, but joy comes in the morning. May we be able to build with hope and joy, never forgetting the lives that have been lost, and make a way for a new season. And we pray for your glory, God. Amen.
Before we carry on with the program, we want to take this time as we talk about, as we push through the global pandemic, we would not have been able to do it without the close to 2,500 City of Little Rock employee team members. Two team members we have here today are Susie Matheny and Karen Johnson. If you all would please stand. They were very instrumental to a lot of our partnerships and execution. And on behalf of the City of Little Rock, we want to say thank you for all of your hard work. We're here today for a specific reason here at the William Jefferson Clinton Presidential Library. We think back on March 11th, there were a lot of people that were in close to the Parks Department area at City Hall. I remember sitting down and seeing directors Peck and Webb and Superintendent Mike Poore and Nate Coulter and Stephanie Street and countless other members, John Eckert and Matt Burks and Nathan Spicer, and all of us were here in the Parks Department because we didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew our children needed food. And so from that point on, we made strategic decisions to ensure that we had significant strategic partnerships to ensure that all of our children that were in need of food would receive food. And from that meeting, countless other strategic partnerships became abound. And that's because of the resiliency and the purpose-mindedness of our city. Dr. Jay Barth is going to discuss all of the partners that are here with us today. A few partners will be coming up to speak. Dr. Jay Barth will talk through some of them, but we have directors Webb, as well as, and actually I'm a little bit ahead of myself, Dr. Jay Barth. Before we get to Dr. Jay Barth, we want the chairman of the Little Rock COVID-19 Task Force to kind of give a brief overview of COVID-19, where we've been and where we're going. Dr. Dean Camperius, LR City Director.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And this is an important occasion for many reasons. One, we want to remember the people who unfortunately died from this illness. But more importantly, for me, we want to remember the response of our community in regard to this pandemic. When this occurred, the mayor asked that the medical institutions in our city get together and try to work on how to take care of people. And I want to say with pride that they have done and did do a great job. We continue to meet to this day, and there's a number of individuals who need to be mentioned. Steppy Meddy at the medical school, Jerry Jones at St. Vincent's, Greg Crane and Mandy Novak at Baptist, Rick Barr at Children's, Brian Fowler at the Arkansas Surgical Center. And they came together and we started meeting. And what we found out is that by taking 6 hospitals and working together, sharing knowledge, sharing resources, sharing patients, and working together to talk about the capacity that our city had to take care of patients, we never had a crisis where we were turning people away. We never had a crisis where we didn't give great care to anybody that came to Central Arkansas in our hospitals. We never turned away a patient from anywhere in the state, whether it was the northeast or the northwest part of the state or the southern part of the state where we see most of our patients come from. The second thing I want people to understand is that after having a month or two of being shut down, we understood a second thing that no one ever really thought about, and that is while you have a pandemic, it doesn't stop people from having a heart attack or needing a mammogram or a child needing a vaccine. All of those things were ongoing needs, and so for 2 or 3 months, we didn't take care of those problems. We understood that we had to learn how to take care of the acute problems that were going on. We had to learn how to take care of maintenance that was going on. We had to learn how to take care of children. At the same time, we were taking care of COVID in the same hospitals and the same institutions using the same nurses and ancillary facilities. And we learned how to do that. And we took a great campaign that was done by Millie Ward, that she donated her services. It was paid for by Blue Cross Blue Shield and the business community. And we said to the community, don't stop coming to the hospital. Don't stop taking care of the acute problems going on, because if you have a heart attack and you don't come, a month or two from now, if you live through it, you're going to be in worse shape, and it's going to cost the system more and all of us more. So we've been able to learn how to take care of patients that have COVID and non-COVID patients at the same time. I want to celebrate their successes. I want to celebrate a community that came together. I want to celebrate a group of people that took their ego and put it aside. These are hospitals that have been competing since I was a little boy, who came together and said, we're in a pandemic, we have to come together, we have to learn to work together, and basically for our part of the community, we never had a problem with any patient now either having a COVID problem or a non-COVID problem that didn't receive superb care. And it's because everybody came together to work for the common good. So thank you, and thanks, Frank.
Good afternoon. As the mayor said earlier, 365 days ago today, about this time, we were all packed in a small conference room in City Hall. And in a couple weeks later, we would look back at that moment somewhat aghast. We were all maskless. We were all right on top of each other. We were We were the picture of what not to do in a moment like this. But we came together because we saw all of the schools in Pulaski County coming to a close, and we immediately said, we don't know where the tens of thousands of students in this county who are dependent upon the free and reduced lunch program for their meals, where they will get those meals. And it was, as the mayor said, it was an array of partners from within the city. And I particularly want to thank Harriet Phillips, who was such a crucial leader on this work in the city. But it was a variety of other partners from the districts, from community-based organizations, etc. And the question was not whether we would respond to get meals to students. It was really how we would respond. And we knew that partnerships would have to be at the centerpiece of that. The great thing was we had already in place a model for how partnerships could come together to really enhance food security for students. And that was the Be Mighty program that the city, in partnership with CALS, Rock Region Metro, and the district had already put in place over a couple of summers. So we knew that we could pull this group together. But we also knew that this was going to have to be on a much bigger scale, and it was going to have to be more sustained, and therefore it was going to require more partners with more resources. And thankfully, through the work of the Clinton Foundation, we found an important partner in World Central Kitchen that came to Little Rock and said, yes, we will engage in Little Rock to help provide those meals that the city needs. And I see back in the back Lori Ducey, who worked with World Central Kitchen from Little Rock. I called her on Saturday night and said, we're doing this thing and we really need some help for a couple of weeks. Months later, Lori was still involved creatively in making this work. And so, Lori, thank you so much for your dedication over the last months. By the end of the day, just at 700,000 meals had been served out of this building. Nearly 40,000 meals have been served out of Central Arkansas Library System locations, and tens of thousands of meals have been served by the Little Rock School District. This was a tremendous response by this community. And it not only fed people, but it gave folks a lot of other things, and it harkens back to the earlier prayer. And I want to read one note from one of the women who had come to a site for meals over several weeks. And she wrote a note, just dropped it off to one of the volunteers, and it's crucially important. There were tens of thousands of volunteer hours put into this endeavor as well. And she wrote, "To whom this gratitude belongs, I don't know you all, nor do you all know me. But I want to say thank you for preparing and delivering the life-sustaining foods you all are a part of. You all are heroes, doing what your hearts have guided you to volunteer and give to humanity. We are proud, hard workers, mothers, fathers, grandparents that have fallen on lean, desperate times worldwide. Thank you for being compassionate. Thank you for kindness. Thank you for seeing the need and being courageous enough to put your own health in jeopardy, coming out to serve. Thank you on behalf of all of the children you are helping. Thank you for showing me hope still lives. Humbly I say thank you." That sums it up in many ways. It wasn't just the food, as important as that was. It was also the sense of community, the sense of belonging, and the hope. And so thank you for all of y'all who have been a part of that. We're now going to have a few of those partners say a few words about what this work meant. First off, and I'm going to introduce you all, and then y'all can just come up for your comments. First off, of course, Superintendent Mike Poor from Little Rock School District, who, of course, was the reason we came together for the students of the district, but his team, crucially important. Next, Director Kathy Webb, who wore two hats in that room at City Hall that day. The first of those hats was as Executive Director of the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance. And she and her team brought the expertise to figure out how to do this smartly, what waivers we needed from the federal government to get this done, and then they were smart in helping us ask for the waivers, and Harriet Phillips was persistent in being sure that they got done. Kathy, of course, also wears the hat of a city director who was a visionary for Be Mighty in the first place, and she brought that experience to the table. Next, KK DeRossick from the Central Arkansas Library System, where she is grants director, another key partner and key player in the Be Mighty program. Next, this could only have worked if we had transportation. And Charles Frazier, the CEO of Rock Region Metro, a key player in that component of this. And then finally, of course, the Clinton Center, the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Presidential Center. Debbie Schock, the Chief of Staff, is here to talk about their work. And so, Mr. Poor, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have a phrase that we use in the Little Rock School District on a regular basis that's called the power of us, and I think this exemplifies that in such tremendous ways. We also bring up a word and a phrase that fits in well with the mayor's vision of what we say, one rock, and us all being together. This massive food effort, we find out on March 11th that our school district is shutting down, and all the community partners jumping in to say, we're in, we want to be a part of it. And we served, that was on Wednesday. Friday, we had meals going out to families from the school district, and then Saturday and Sunday, we had meals going to families on a weekend that quick. That's remarkable. Our team, I want to congratulate Stephanie Walker-Hines, our child nutrition person, my CFO, Kelsey, Pam Smith, always doing a tremendous job, and our staff. We had a lot of staff just do the right things. I'm going to take advantage of this moment and just go a couple deeper on this involvement, because it really shows how much we cared. Dr. Campuras helped with setting up medical day camps within our community so that our medical professionals could have someone there for their kids. And I have two people back in the back that have helped me out, Talitha Leonard, who was at that time with the University of Arkansas Medical Center, and Ron Self, the Director of Security, and wave if you guys would. But those two individuals helped set up these day camps that then allowed our medical staff to go help everyone stay healthy. And that led then to not only day camps for the University Medical Center, but the VA, the Heart Hospital, Arkansas Surgery Hospital. I would be remiss if I didn't share the mayor's support on what it means to be a kid at this point in time, because that's critical. Food is important, but right behind it is the nourishment of the brain and the nourishment of their heart to be engaged with people. He has set up through Jay Barth and many of my team that we have hotspots that are available everywhere, including the parks, which is really cool, Mayor. And then we have moved forward with a literacy plan that helps recover some of this learning loss that the city directors approved with the mayor on a program called Lexia that's working fantastic right now, and we appreciate that. And of course, I just want to compliment all of the educational professionals. I don't think there's been a time where people have more appreciated what it means to be a teacher. Whether it's a private school, charter school, or a Little Rock School District teacher, they did amazing work and have been doing amazing work over the course of this year. And I congratulate them, and I'm honored to be with all of you today as we kind of celebrate the good work we've all done on the behalf of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank you for your leadership over the last year. And thank you for convening this group today, because I think it is really important that we remember those that we've lost over the last year, and we take a moment to recognize the impact that the pandemic has had on our residents in so many ways. And many of you know that we live in a state and a city that pre-pandemic had very high rates of food insecurity. In good times, high rates of food insecurity. And I'm so grateful that our city had programs in place, like Dr. Barth mentioned, the Be Mighty program that was started in 2019, so that when the pandemic started, we had partners who were able to respond quickly, plus all of the new partners we gathered to feed our kids, our families, and our seniors. And while Jay mentioned many of those partners, I think it would be remiss if I didn't repeat Lori Ducey's name. And I also want to add Director Adcock, Congressman French Hill, and Senator John Bozeman, because we reached out to our elected officials on a daily basis, particularly at the beginning, to push for waivers, and when they were in town, to go with us to distribution sites to see how things were going with some of the programs that the federal government passed. Jay talked about all the meals that were served, and we went beyond that. One of Lori's goals that she stated over and over again was to make sure we filled the gaps. And when KK and Nate and I met with Bruce before the pandemic, we talked about one of B Mighty's goals for the future was to fill the gaps. And that involved distributing food boxes in the Latinx community. It involved distributing food boxes to people's homes and in trailer parks. It involved getting grocery cards and going to the grocery store and shopping for people who were homebound. We knocked on people's doors and they burst into tears when they saw us because they had no food in their home. No food. We saw new partnerships come out of this year. It has not been seamless, but as Dr. Compuris said, we have seen relationships between groups and people who were willing to set aside their egos, in our case, to feed people. It took 10 years for Arkansas to get back to pre-recession numbers in terms of food insecurity. As we move from the pandemic to the recovery, we are determined to make sure it does not take 10 years. We are determined to make sure the gaps stay filled, and we are determined to work to enact policies that will alleviate the gaps that have been exacerbated by the pandemic. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everybody who has been a partner in this effort.
Good afternoon. I'm KK Durasik, coordinator of Be Mighty Little Rock, and I just wanted to thank Dr. Barth and Mayor Frank Scott for having me here today to talk about the wonderful partnerships that came out of this pandemic and challenging time for our community. So Be Mighty Little Rock, our mission is to connect kids and teens to free after-school, weekend, and summer meals. And when schools closed in the middle of March, we weren't sure what we were getting into or how long it would go on. We just knew that students that rely on school meals were going to go without. And thanks to Mayor Scott's leadership and our wonderful partners, we were able to make sure meals were available all across our city and our county, 7 days a week, 3 meals a day. And this would not have been possible without the support of all of these partners. So to all the volunteers, the staff, and the donors that made this possible, I just say thank you, and I look forward to continuing to make these meals available for our community. If you know someone that needs to find a place for a free meal, they can go to BeMightyLittleRock.org. There's a list of all the free meal sites available for kids 18 and younger. So thank y'all, and thank you, Mayor Scott.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Frazier. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Rock Region Metro. We are the authority that provides public transit service to our partners here in the city of Little Rock. Our mission is to provide safe, reliable, convenient, and cost-effective transit service. Frankly, that's been difficult to do over the last year, but what we really do is provide access to opportunity. Access to opportunity. And we had that opportunity throughout the last year in providing free transportation for people in this community to food distribution sites. We also turned our travel center into a location where people could travel to and get fresh milk, fresh food, and even coming to this distribution center, picking up food and delivering it all throughout the county. Fortunately, light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine being available now. Rock Region Metro will focus in a new direction and help the community recover from COVID-19 in 3 specific ways. Number 1, we've already held our first walk-in COVID clinic at our travel center downtown. Last Wednesday, we were able to inoculate over 665 people at our travel center. We'll be setting up more of those programs. Number 2, Rock Region Metro is providing free transportation on all of our modes of transit until May 31st for people who need the vaccine. Fixed route buses, on-demand transit, and our paratransit service. If you are going to get your vaccine, show your receipt, show your appointment, and it's free until the end of May. Third and final, we've just established a new partnership with Walmart, where we will be helping get people in the community to the pharmacy for vaccinations. Our first pilot program will begin on Monday in Southwest Little Rock, where people can call and get door-to-door service to get their vaccine. And so, I'm happy to be a partner. I want to thank the mayor for inviting me to be here today. Whether it's food, vaccinations, getting folks to jobs in the future, we're happy to be a partner, and thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Debbie Schock, and I'm Chief of Staff for the Clinton Presidential Center. And throughout this challenging year, I have had the honor to see our community at its best. In March of 2020, exactly a year ago this weekend, the Clinton Foundation, along with World Central Kitchen, the City of Little Rock, and many other partners, came together to discuss the issue of food insecurity for students, parents, and many of our neighbors. We brought resources in. We created this center into a food distribution hub, and people from all walks of life joined in on this effort to make healthy meals for our community. And while we worked together over the year, we have served more than 715,000 meals this year. On behalf of my colleagues at the Clinton Foundation, I'd like to extend my grateful thanks to all of our wonderful partners and our amazing staff, and over 1,000 staff members and volunteers worked here in the center to make this meals program a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and this work goes on. As KK said, BeMightyLittleRock.org remains active and is continuing to work. And importantly, World Central Kitchen is continuing to do work in Little Rock. And between next week and April 8th, the city, World Central Kitchen, and the Clinton Foundation will continue relief meals into specific neighborhoods, working with specific community-based organizations to be sure that we continue to fill those gaps that Director Webb talked about just a minute ago. We will continue to watch. We obviously anticipate and very much hope that the relief efforts from the federal government begin to work their way so that is not as dire a need as it once was, but we will continue to track that and respond to the needs of this community. This has been a year of real challenges, but it has also been a year when we have seen the power of partnerships to create real transformative change. Thank you all so much. Mayor Scott, I'll turn it back to you.
As we get ready to come to a close, there are a few more comments that we definitely want to stress. Because anything about this global pandemic, not only was it a health care perspective, and not only did it expose healthcare disparities, it exposed financial disparities within our economic development system. While we had historic jobs growth, we also understand there were businesses that were hurting. We understand that one of the businesses and one of the industries here in Little Rock that makes Little Rock so great is our restaurants scene. And we know many things happen because our restaurateurs were asked to transition their business models and their way of life in a matter of a day. And so one of those perspectives we wanted to highlight today is the leadership that this city took on, whether it was with our Dine Out initiative, whether it was creating public policies that allowed for restaurants to become boutique grocery stores by uplifting certain restrictions within our planning and development code. And one of those valiant leaders was one of our city directors that also holds two hats. That was City Director Kathy Peck, who's not only the City Director of Ward 4, she's also the restaurant owner of Trios, and also a strong advocate for the restaurant industry. Director Peck.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief because I've got to get back to the restaurant. Excuse my attire. I'm so happy to be here. If there's a silver lining in the pandemic, the one takeaway is that I have realized how compassionate our community is. I was lucky enough to get a phone call from a friend of over 50 years, Mary Steenburgen, you may know her name, who still has very, very deep roots in this community. And she contacted me back in December about a program that her husband, Ted Danson, had heard about called Plating Change. Long story short, this was an initiative that Trios and Doe's Eat Place and Lindsay's Barbecue and Hospitality House in North Little Rock embraced. We are at the end of the program now. Towards the end, we will have prepared almost 20,000 meals for food insecure people. And what has been so heartwarming is we've been able to fill in some gaps that we didn't really know about. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we found out about an individual who was personally feeding over 50 families in his community without knowing how to access what World Central Kitchen was doing or Be Mighty. So it's been a wonderful ride. It's provided a little revenue to these restaurants that have been struggling. On my way here today, I was listening to NPR and heard that 20% of restaurants nationwide have shuttered and will not reopen. So it has been challenging, but we've survived. My colleague, Dr. Dean Compuris, I don't make one move without talking to him. So my final word is to the community, let's keep this connection and the compassion going. So many volunteers have helped us with the Plating Change initiative, which has been hugely successful. It's really been the most important work I've ever done. And special thanks to my mentor and work wife, Kathy Webb. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Peck. As we come to a close, we want to continue to focus on small businesses. And so while we had all of these strategic partnerships, I want to take time to recognize Director Kevin Howard and his entire team of our housing and neighborhood programs. When you think about this situation, and we understand what was going on with the restaurants, but also other small businesses, and particularly those small businesses that don't fit the traditional definition of a small business administration, which means 0 to 500. We're talking about the gig economy, those that are from 0 to 25. Many businesses that we come to know day in and day out that were hurting. And so one of the things we were able to do was focus on a small business emergency assistance program where we had about $250,000 and we issued out $5,000 forgivable loans. Many businesses that we all know and love to help ensure that they did not transition to a shuttering state. And we're happy that they've been impacted in a positive way and they're still here today. And as we continue to focus on the recovery through the pandemic, as we continue to focus on the restart after the pandemic, and as we continue to focus on the rebuild, it is time that our city understands that we will be better than our beginning. We entered a period of separation. We're now entering a period of unity, growth, and transformation together. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.